Remember in college, or maybe even a couple years post-grad, you'd be at a house party playing beer pong, flip cup, king's cup, all the cup games, right? And then eventually someone would be like, hey y'all, let's play Never Have I Ever. And the game would start off mild, right? Someone would be like, never have I ever been outside the country. Oh my God, Megan, you never been to Mexico? That's crazy. But then inevitably, the game would always turn sexual. Someone would be like, never have I ever had a threesome. Oh my God, Bailey, you're so bad. But then there were always those people who deliberately said things that they have done, sacrificing their own finger in the process just so they could brag. And this particular character would definitely be the type to do that. He would pull up like, never have I ever gotten a blowjob from a mythical creature. Bro, what? I'm Brandon O. This is Terrorific, and we're chopping up 2012's VHS. Welcome back to the place where it's perpetually spooky season. It's been 63 days since the season 2 finale. Hope you've enjoyed this fall weather. I hope you had a happy Halloween. I saw a lot of people went all out with their costumes, with the blood and the gore and the makeup. Looked pretty tight. I, however, live in a home with 4 young children and a wife who has absolutely no desire whatsoever to be scared in any capacity. So my costumes tend to be family friendly. This year I was a banana, and more specifically I was a refrigerated banana because I wore sunglasses. Haha, super cool, wink wink. My kids, let's see, the oldest, he was Squirtle. He's really into Pokemon these days. Our twins, we had, one was a unicorn and one was like a unicorn rider or jockey. You know, those little inflatable costumes that make it look like you have the little legs on the side or whatever. And then our youngest was a shark and my wife was a dog. So we had a wide range of costumes there. Also, during the show's hiatus, I have been busy making connections and networking with my fellow indie horror content creatives. So shout out to the Creators Collective, the Killer Point of View Network, and the Echo Cell Collective. And I'll give all the individuals associated with these teams and groups more shine towards the end of the episode. And my final housekeeping note before getting into VHS. Last week, the show had its first birthday. Episode 1, The Church of Jigsaw, premiered November 12th, 2024. I'm honestly surprised that we made it this far, but yay. And now let's tee up season 3. So be kind, please rewind, because this season we are diving into a franchise that combines my favorite horror subgenre, found footage, with one of my favorite storytelling formats, anthologies. I will be ranking every segment in the VHS franchise by assigning them a Terrorific score to crown the best of them all. Now, the Terrorific score is an average of 4 components. We have the story, special effects, situational fear, and the likelihood of death. Now, just because a character or characters died in this segment, that doesn't necessarily mean that it gets a 5 for likelihood of death. If there was a reasonable chance to avoid that death, then the score is adjusted accordingly. There are 6 segments in VHS, so without further ado, kicking us off in the number 6 spot with the lowest Terrorific score of the first film is Tape 56. Now, if you're familiar with the structure of the VHS franchise, then you know that every film has one central story that serves as the frame narrative. And it's broken up into sections or interludes, and in between these sections, the other segments play. Now, Tape 56 is the frame narrative for the first VHS film. It was directed and co-written by Adam Wingard along with Simon Barrett, and other notable horror directorial credits for Adam Wingard include 2011's You're Next, 2014's The Guest, and 2016's Blair Witch. The story focuses on 4 characters, Rox, Zach, Gary, and Brad, who by the way is played by Adam Wingard, and they are a gang of degenerate shitbags who go around filming their criminal exploits that include vandalism when they take a baseball bat to an abandoned building, and sexual assaults when they grab a woman up in a parking garage and pull down her top, forcibly exposing her breasts to the camera. Like I said, just really shitty people. Oh, and by the way, one guy casually drops the N-word, so yay, they are also racist. The gang receives an anonymous job offer to break into a home and steal one particular VHS tape. Now, the ringleader, Gary, says whoever hired them mentioned that he saw their work online, but one of the other dudes points out that they don't put their names on any of their content, so how the dude knows them. And that, my friend, is what we refer to as a red flag. But once they arrive at the house, they see an apparent dead man in a recliner sitting in front of a bunch of staticky TVs. Yet again, red flag. Side note, and I hope this does not offend you, but there is absolutely no way I'm letting someone named Gary be my gang's ringleader. That is the most accountant name I've ever heard in my entire life, and I say that as a former accountant. Gary definitely has an abacus at home. Like, bro, how can you expect me to commit a felony around someone named Gary? He would definitely be the first person to snitch if we got jammed up. But I digress. In this room with the dead man and the staticky TVs, there are a bunch of VHS tapes. And as the guys grab these tapes and start playing them, what they see becomes these segments that happen throughout the film. So dude 1 grabs a tape, pops it into the VCR. Once it ends, he is just gone. He's disappeared somewhere. Dude 2 comes up later on, doesn't really seem to be too concerned about his boy going missing, grabs the next tape, pops it into the VCR, and once that one ends, we see that the man in the recliner has vanished, so I guess he's not so dead after all. But Dude 2 has his back to the recliner, so he is completely unaware, so he just goes ahead and pops in the 3rd tape. And when the 3rd tape ends, Dude 2 has now also disappeared. Plus, the man is back in the recliner. Pretty spooky stuff. Eventually, the 4th and final guy walks into the room, sees that everyone has gone missing, and also the recliner man is missing. So he's like, yo, what the fuck? Turns out the dead man is a zombie. He's been ripping people's heads off, so all his friends are cooked. So Dude 4, who I think is Gary, he tries to run away, falls down the stairs, like gets his ankle twisted or broken or whatever, and he gets got. R.I.P. Gary. Your abacus will never forget you. So let's go to the scorecard. Now all these were rated on a scale of 1 to 5, so the story, I gave it a 2. There just wasn't enough meat on the bones. If we had seen more of the death happen on screen, the score probably would have been higher, but as such, I gotta go with what I'm working with here. For special effects, similar situation, it got a 2. It's a lot of just people sitting there and looking at the screen. Towards the end, you see like a little bit of a close-up of the zombie's face, but really it's just like a little blood dribble or whatever. Nothing too crazy. For situational fear, I gave that a 2 as well, because we have to make the assumption that since so much death happened off screen and the recliner was situated behind the people, that maybe they didn't have enough time to really understand what was happening. So the only person who really knew that we could tell at least what was happening was person 4, Gary. Likelihood of death, I gave it a 3.5. Even though all 4 characters did die, I think Gary had a chance to survive. If he had any semblance of coordination and didn't trip over his own feet while running down the steps, he could have survived. Probably. So, average that all together, we get our overall Terrorific score of a 2.38 for Tape 56. At number 5, we have Second Honeymoon. Now this segment was written and directed by Ty West, best known of course for being the man behind the trilogy consisting of X, Pearl, and Maxine. Now I covered X in a previous episode of Terrorific titled Big Richard Energy, so feel free to check that one out. But Second Honeymoon follows a married couple named Sam and Stephanie, and they are filming their road trip through the Southwest for their second honeymoon in Arizona. One night, while staying in a motel room, a strange woman knocks on the door asking for a ride in the morning, and after Sam declines, this woman continues to pace around the parking lot very strangely and, dare I say, menacingly. Well, the couple goes to sleep, and someone picks up the camera in their room and is filming them. Fuck that. This person pulls out a knife and is kind of like flashing it, and then continues to just make their way through this motel room. They end up in the bathroom, they grab one of the toothbrushes, and they like rub it around inside the toilet. Yuck. And then we see them in the mirror, and the person appears to be a masked woman. But wait, she's not done yet. She finds Sam's wallet and jacks his cash. The next morning, Sam and Stephanie are driving to the Grand Canyon, and he accuses her of stealing his money. And of course, she denies it. Like, why would she have any need to steal from her husband? And he alludes to her having a tendency to overspend, perhaps hinting at some prior or maybe still current yet buried tension between them. Later that night, while Sam and Stephanie are asleep, the masked woman returns yet again, but this time she stabs Sam in the neck with her knife. And it's revealed that she is the same woman who had asked for a ride the previous day, but further plot twist, she's having an affair with Stephanie, and this whole thing was their grand scheme to get Sam out of the picture so they could live happily ever after. So for the story, I gave Second Honeymoon a 2.5. It was okay. I just would have liked to see things fleshed out a little bit more, have a little bit more backstory. For special effects, I gave it a 3, because whenever Sam is choking on his own blood, that was pretty well executed. Situational fear, I gave it a 1, because Sam died, but he was asleep when it happened, so no time to really be afraid. And likelihood of death, I gave it a 5, because, I mean, you're asleep, can't defend yourself, no opportunity to escape. R.I.P. Sam. So the overall Terrorific score comes in at a 2.88. At number 4, we have Tuesday the 17th. This was written and directed by Glenn McQuaid, known for his 2008 feature film debut I Sell the Dead, which I have not seen nor heard of prior to now, but apparently it's pretty decent. Now the story revolves around 4 friends, Samantha, Wendy, Spider, and Joey, and they take a road trip to a lake that Wendy visits every year, and it's in the middle of the woods. Nothing good ever happens in the middle of the woods, but the camera starts glitching, and it's like not a regular glitch, it's showing corpses on camera. Now, if that were me, the minute I see a corpse pop up on my camera that I cannot see with my naked eye, the first thing I'm doing is stopping the recording, and the second thing I'm doing is getting the fuck up out of there. But Joey, he's just like, technology, am I right? No, bro, you are not right. You are the furthest thing from right. You have never been more wrong in your entire life. But Wendy says to Joey out of the blue, "You're all gonna fucking die up here." Again, if someone says this to me, I am leaving. I'm not sticking around. But bro just says, "What?" And he like keeps it moving, ignoring all these red flags. But later on, I guess after stewing on it a little bit, he brings it up and he's like, "Hey, Wendy, remember that time you said we were all gonna fucking die up here? What do you mean by that?" And Wendy launches into the story about how there had been a group of people that had been murdered up there before and blah blah blah, but they're all smoking weed, they're all baked out of their minds, so no one takes it seriously. But Samantha proclaims that she needs to go take a shit, and for some reason, Spider decides to go with her. But this is when we discover that the killer is a supernatural entity that can only be seen on camera. He kills Samantha by stabbing her through the back of the head, leaving her eyeball hanging out, and then Spider's like, "Oh shit," and he tries to run away, but Spider's clearly a nickname. His real name is probably Gary because he trips and falls, and then the killer repeatedly stabs him in the forehead, which, side note, is a pretty unique place to stab someone. Wendy then reveals to Joey that the last time she journeyed up to the lake, her other friends all died, and she is the sole survivor. And she brought Joey and company up here to use them as bait to lure the killer so she could finally kill it for revenge. Well, Joey gets his throat slit as the killer sneaks up behind him, and Wendy flees and she lures the killer through a series of like traps that she set up. There's like a pit, a bear trap, a makeshift like spike joint, and Wendy is talking like mad shit, thinking that she beat the killer, but he's like, psych, and he runs up on her, beats her to death with the camera before disemboweling her. Yikes. So for Tuesday the 17th story, I gave it a 3. You know, having a killer that can only be seen on camera is a pretty cool idea. For special effects, I gave it a 4. You know, with the forehead stabbing, all the traps, and finally with Wendy's guts being pulled out. That was a pretty gnarly little touch there at the end. For situational fear, I gave it a 2 because Samantha didn't even know what was going on. She just took a knife. Spider, he had like a quick moment of fear, I guess, but not really prolonged. And Joey just got his throat slit. Finally, Wendy, she was just determined to get revenge, so I doubt her fear level was very high. And then likelihood of death, I gave it a 5 because the killer is apparently immortal. How can you beat that? So that brings us to an overall Terrorific score of 3.5. At number 3, we have the segment titled 103198. It was written and directed by the film collective Radio Silence, whose notable horror works include 2019's Ready or Not, the 5th and 6th Scream films released in 2022 and 2023 respectively, and 2024's Abigail. The story revolves around 4 friends traveling to a Halloween party, and the cameraman is dressed up as a nanny cam, so I thought that was pretty creative. Details surrounding this party are pretty scarce. All the guys have is an address, so when they show up to the house, all the lights are on, but it's completely empty. Now, best case scenario, this means that you showed up way too early and you should leave immediately, go somewhere else in pregame and wait for more people to show up. But they just assume that this is like a immersive experience and that it's like a fake haunted house. And so they just start walking through it, trying to have fun. Spoiler alert, it's real haunted. Like arms reach out through the walls trying to grab them and the guys are just like, oh shit, that's crazy how they have such amazing effects. Then they work their way up to the attic, and in the attic there's some sort of exorcistic ritual being performed. Like there's a group of men and they have a crying woman tied up, and the dudes are just like watching from the stairs, and as the exorcism is being performed and there starts to be some chanting going on, our group of 4 starts chanting along with them, like, yeah, keep it going. And so everyone turns like, yo, who the fuck are these guys? Why are you here? And shit goes awry. People start levitating and getting thrown up at the ceiling, so finally the guys are like, okay, maybe this is real, and they haul ass out of there. And they are at the front door, literally like 3 of them are outside, like they are in the clear. But the nanny cam dude is like, wait guys, we have to go back. We left that woman up there. Bro, look, there is a fine line sometimes between being a good person and being a stupid person. And I think we're teetering into the latter territory here. But as the rescue commences, they get back up to the attic. The woman gets like stabbed by one of the other men. And we see some cool special effects here, like the house is trying to trap them inside. There are disappearing door handles, there's furniture levitating, and they escape through the basement. And they start driving the woman to the hospital. But on the drive, the car stalls out and it stops on train tracks. Turns out this woman is like a witch or a demon or something, because one second she's in the back seat, next second she's standing in front of the car, and she locks all the doors. And as the doors lock, a train starts approaching the car. The guys can't escape and they get their shit rocked. So as far as the story goes, I gave this a 3.5. I like the subversion of the damsel in distress trope and how she ended up being the person that got everybody killed. Special effects wise, I also gave it a 3.5. As I said, with the disappearing door handles and the levitating furniture, it's a pretty cool looking effects. Situational fear, that is definitely a 5. I would be shitting myself if I was in some house that was doing crazy poltergeist-like shit. And definitely if I'm locked in the backseat as a train approaches and is about to pancake me, boy, that is a terrifying thought. And the likelihood of death, I gave that a 3, because if Nanny Cam wasn't trying to be a hero, bros could have gotten out of there. Like, I can just imagine the other 3 guys being in the car, you know, a couple seconds before the train hits, and their final thoughts are probably like, man, fucking Derek, this is why we don't invite him anywhere. You know what I mean? Always trying to be the good guy, always trying to seem like he's looking out for everybody else. No, bro, he probably just wanted to get laid, and now you are a pancake. But speaking of trying to get laid, that is a perfect segue into our number 2 story, which, when I was first thinking about doing VHS as a season, this particular segment was the one that I remembered. I haven't seen the movie since, you know, it first came out 13 years ago, but I remembered bits and pieces of only this segment right here, so I figured it would be number 1. But coming in at number 2, we have Amateur Night. Now, this one was directed and co-written by David Bruckner, who has also directed a couple of other solid, if not underrated, horror joints in 2017's The Ritual and 2020's The Night House. In this segment, the camera's POV comes from using spyglasses, which I thought was a pretty unique idea. But 3 bros are out here trying to chase tail. They go out raging, and they want to pick up some chicks to bring them back to their rented hotel room in order to film a secret amateur porno, which morally is highly questionable. But we've got the alpha bro Shane, the sidekick bro Patrick, and the quote-unquote nice/beta bro Clint, who is the one wearing the spyglasses. So as they're out here in the streets, they go to a bar, they get litty, and they find a couple of girls who I guess are DTF. So one of them is hella wasted and the other one is pretty strange. All she says in a very low whisper is, "I like you," to Clint over and over and over again. But he doesn't seem to be turned off by that. I guess somehow that is doing it for him. So they bring these 2 girls back to the room with them. Shane is trying to smash the wasted girl, whose name is Lisa, while Clint is talking, and I use that word loosely, with the strange girl, whose name is Lily. Meanwhile, Patrick is just kind of sitting on the couch as the odd man out. Now, because Lisa is so wasted, she unsurprisingly passes out while her and Shane are making out. And here's where things get really dicey, because there is a second there where it looks like Shane is still going to continue even though she's passed out. I mean, he's shaking her, trying to wake her up, but she's done. And reluctantly, he seems to leave her alone. But then he turns his attention over to Lily, and being the alpha bro that he is, and Clint being the beta bro that he is, he just kind of pushes him out of the way and just starts making out with Lily. And it's not really making out because it's a very one-way transaction. I mean, it's pretty uncomfortable to watch because she's kind of just like laying there. And again, she's only said things like, "I like you." Like, she hasn't even formed a true sentence. But Shane remains undeterred and begins to undress Lily. And that's when we, the audience, as well as Clint, notice that her feet are both scaly and clawed. Shane, however, is completely oblivious because all he cares about is getting it in. Well, things are about to get really awkward. Lily drops the timid act and begins to assert her dominance. She rolls Shane over and straddles him, then she grabs Clint's face and shoves her tongue down his throat, trying to initiate a threesome. But while she does this, we see that her tongue is completely black. Now, I never saw her eat a single strand of licorice, so if that were me, party is over. But I guess the blood is rushing to the other head, so these dudes are locked in. Patrick, who's been sitting on the couch on the sidelines this whole time, he's like, "Hey, y'all two getting some? I want some too." So he gets up, trying to join the party, and Lily is like, no. Like, she literally like hisses at this dude, hisses at him. Now, this is a diabolical level of horniness to be able to ignore a person, quote unquote person, literally hissing at other people in the room, and you're still trying to smash. Bro, like, what are we doing here? This math ain't mathin'. But Clint starts to get a little bit flustered. He goes to the bathroom, and as he does, Patrick drops his pants and he's like, fuck it, let's get it. Even though Lily said no. Patrick then comes running into the bathroom and his hand's all bloody. He's like, bro, she bit me. I mean, dude just completely fucks up all the vibes. So now Lily goes full monster mode and she starts tearing into Shane. So now Patrick and Clint are like, yo, what the fuck is happening? It would appear that Lily is short for Lilith, and these boys have encountered a succubus. But demonic creature or not, she's still a woman, right? And these are strong bros. So Patrick's like, you know what? I'm going out there and I'm gonna fuck her up. Well, doesn't really happen the way he wants it to. And he ends up getting jumped on and she sinks her fangs into his neck, starts drinking his blood, and then she grabs a big handful of his dick and balls and rips them clean off, throws them on the floor, splat. Whew. At this point, Lily's looking real scary. Like, her forehead is like kind of split open and down the middle. Her eyes are all wild. She's bloody and fanged and she looks scary. So Clint's like, okay, this might be a good time for me to run away. And as is the theme apparently in this movie, as he's running, he tumbles down the staircase and breaks his arm. Now personally, I have broken my arm twice in my life, and I can tell you from first-hand experience that my legs did in fact still work. However, Clint decides to kind of lay around for a little bit, and so Lily runs up on him. But she's still into him, even though she's looking real demonic right now. And she tries to suck him off. And understandably, after seeing his two best buddies get like torn into pieces, including one of them having his dick and balls ripped off, Clint is having trouble getting hard. And so Lily takes this personally. She's like, oh, you know, like? And then she kind of goes into the corner and starts crying a little bit. And he's like, I don't know what to do here. You can tell because he's such a quote unquote nice guy. He's thinking about maybe trying to comfort her and console her before he realizes and remembers that, wait a minute, this is a monster that literally just killed one of my friends by slicing his neck up or whatever, and killed another one by ripping his dick and balls off. So finally, he gets some common sense and tries to run away. And he's running through the parking lot of this hotel or motel, whatever it is, and he's trying to flag down people to help him, but he's probably bloody as hell. He's probably butt-ass naked, so these people are like, yo, who is this guy? He's weird. But Lily comes from behind him, snatches him up, and flies off into the night sky, carrying Clint away. His glasses fall off, so we don't know what happens. He's just gone. And this really reminded me of the ending to Jeepers Creepers when the creeper flies off with Derry into the moonlit sky. But let's go to the scorecard. So, as far as the story goes, I gave Amateur Night a 4.5. There was good pacing, they really set it up well. There were a few different directions I thought the story was gonna go before it ultimately veered into monster territory, so I thought that was pretty cool. Special effects. Did I mention that they ripped off someone's dick and balls? So, from a prosthetic standpoint and a practical effects standpoint, that is damn near top notch. So I gave that a 4.5 as well. Not to mention all the other blood and gore, the creature design, all that stuff. Really great special effects. I just didn't want to come out and give it a 5 because it's the first film. I don't remember all the other segments in the other films, so I need to leave myself a little bit of wiggle room here. Situational fear, I gave that a 4.5 as well. In most situations, it probably should have been a 5, but I had to ding half a point because these dudes were still trying to fuck, even though they had all these other red flags around them. So clearly it's not maximum fear if you can still think about clapping cheeks. And likelihood of death, I gave it a 3 because there were multiple instances where survival could have been obtained. Number 1, whenever Lisa first passed out, if Shane was any kind of decent, upstanding person, that would have been the end of the night right there. He was into Lisa. He was vibing with Lisa. Lisa couldn't participate. Then you can't participate either. Take your ass to bed, bro. Don't push yourself on somebody else. Number 2, once Clint saw that Lily's feet were scaled and clawed, I'm not sure why he didn't say something a little bit more sternly, like, yo, bro, something's wrong here. Let's get the fuck out. Number 3, whenever Lily hissed at Patrick and then bit Patrick for making an unwanted advance, that again should have ended the night. If someone is biting you, drawing blood, taking a chunk out of your hand, you should probably leave the situation immediately and maybe seek medical attention, if not call the police. And finally, number 4, and this one is a stretch, I will admit it is a stretch, but based on what they've already demonstrated, their lack of deterrent when it comes to things that shouldn't make you want to smash, whenever Lily was sucking up Clint, I mean, there technically was a chance there that if he could have powered through, you know what I mean, then maybe she would have let him survive. But regardless, we never had Clint's fate confirmed, so he could still be alive somewhere. So that brings the overall score for Amateur Night to a 4.1. Very strong, but not as strong as the number 1 segment in VHS, which I think might have been boosted by the fact that I forgot about it. It just made, when I went into it, it's like I'm watching it with fresh eyes. I have no idea what to expect. And so when things started happening, I was like, oh shit, this is actually a pretty crazy story. How could I not remember this? Our number 1 segment is the sick thing that happened to Emily when she was younger. This one was written by Simon Barrett, who, as I mentioned earlier, was also a co-writer on the Tape 56 segment with Adam Wingard, as the two are frequent collaborators. Barrett also wrote You're Next, The Guest, and Blair Witch. And one of the more underrated joints in recent years, in my opinion, 2024's Azrael, starring Samara Weaving, unique for its lack of dialogue. This segment was directed by Joe Swanberg, who also played Sam in the second Honeymoon segment. He's mostly known for his work in the mumblecore film movement, which is basically people just like talking to each other. Wikipedia describes it as, quote, a subgenre of independent film characterized by naturalistic acting and sometimes improvised dialogue, low budgets and emphasis on dialogue over plot, and a focus on the personal relationships of young adults. And I think this segment would qualify. It focuses on the personal relationship of 2 young adults, a couple named Emily and her boyfriend James, who is long distance as he's away at medical school. And their dialogue comes via webcam. During one of these webcam discussions, Emily complains about hearing strange noises and footsteps outside of her room at night, which is a big nope from me. But James is skeptical, so Emily calls him on cam next time it happens, and the spooky stuff is confirmed. He also hears stuff going bump in the night. And while Emily is facing the camera behind her, a small childlike person runs up out of nowhere and just like shuts her door, and they react so casually. She's just like, hey, did you see that? And he's like, whoa, yeah, I did. Bro, if that is me, if there is some ghostly child in my house, first of all, I am not spending another second in that house. Second of all, I'm not reacting so casually like that. Did you see that? I am yelling. I am going wild. I don't understand these people, bro. Is it me? Am I the weird one? Like, should I be more like a braver person? I don't know. My brain cannot compute how you can literally see what you think is the specter of a deceased child, and you're just like, just another day in apartment 3B. Man, hell nah. Later on, Emily starts complaining about some kind of lump in her forearm that doesn't seem to be getting any better, and she says that it reminds her of something from her childhood. And she keeps playing with it, keeps digging at it, until eventually she digs into her arm. And she's like all bloody and arm meat is all exposed, and she shows it to James like, look at my arm. And this dude barely even bats an eyelash. He's just like, oh wow, Emily, you probably shouldn't do that. Maybe put like a bandage on it and I'll look at it when I'm in town next week. like what? Emily, what are we doing here, bro? Like, if your boyfriend who's supposed to care about you can see your exposed arm meat and all he says is, hey, put a bandage on that, he's just not that into you, bro. And then Emily gets the idea that she wants to try to communicate with this ghostly child or children. And so she says to James, hey, I'm gonna hold my laptop out. I'm gonna walk into my living room, but my eyes are gonna be closed. If you see the ghost kids there, let me know and I'll start to talk to them. And he's like, all right, bet. And so she does this, and she ends up being incapacitated by two children who appear. And then, plot twist, James comes strolling into the apartment. He takes a scalpel and slices open Emily's back, reaches in there, and removes a fetus. Turns out that these ghost children are actually aliens, and they've been using Emily as an incubator for human-alien hybrid babies. And James asks the aliens just how much longer they plan on using Emily for this, because he doesn't think she can survive much more damage, which is hella rich coming from the guy who literally just sliced open her back without any kind of disinfectant, no gloves, nothing. Now all of a sudden he wants to be concerned about her well-being. But wait, there's more. James is like, okay, well, now we have to cover this up. I need to make it look like an accident. So the aliens erase Emily's memory. James then breaks her arm and like beats the shit out of her to make the injuries look like an accident. And so when we next see Emily, she's on webcam. Her face is beat up, black eyes, bruised, bloody, her arms in a sling. And apparently James has fed her a story about she got into a fugue state and ended up wandering into traffic, and that's how she got hurt. And then he recommended a doctor for her, and this doctor has prescribed a shit ton of meds and diagnosed her as schizophrenic. And she is like in shambles, bro. She tells James that he deserves so much better. He should be with someone who's normal, doesn't have all these problems. And James, being the good guy that he is, he's like, nah, girl, you're the only one I want to be with. Oh my God. This is the most diabolical, twisted, fucked up, psychologically torturous thing that I have seen in a long time. And again, I have no idea how I completely forgot about this story. But damn, James is on some nasty shit. But wait, there's more. We then see James back on camera, this time talking with a different girl. Rinse, wash, repeat. Who knows how pervasive this operation is? James truly is evil, bro. Evil. Damn. So story-wise, I gave the sick thing that happened to Emily when she was younger a 5 out of 5. James is an underrated horror movie villain. I would like to see this story expanded into like a full-length feature film. I think that would be pretty good. Special effects, I gave it a 4 out of 5. Whenever he was slicing open Emily's back, pulling out the fetus, whenever she was digging into her arm, pretty well done practical effects there. Situational fear easily gets a 5 out of 5. Like, I can't even imagine the terror and the paranoia that Emily must have been experiencing. and who knows how many other women as well. Like, thinking that not only are you first seeing ghosts, but then thinking that you are insane and having to live with the fact that you wholeheartedly believe that you wandered into traffic and have now been diagnosed as schizophrenic. Like, bro, that is a mind fuck extraordinaire. And I would be terrified of everything in my life after that. And the likelihood of death, I gave this a 3. Just because it seems like the whole incubation process takes a long time. We never saw what happened to Emily, so she may still be alive, although the quality of that life is probably not the greatest. Yeah, pretty tough. So that brings it to an overall score of a 4.25, making it my top segment in the first VHS film. But we'll see how it stacks up against VHS 2 and beyond, because this time, unlike season 1, when I took the winner from each film and matched it up against the winner from the next film, this time it's going to be one big list. So we're going to have the overall rankings for every segment. I have an actual spreadsheet, so I'll just continue to sort and filter as we add movies to it until we crown the number 1 overall best segment in the VHS franchise. Now, to wrap things up, as mentioned at the top of the show, I do want to give some individual shout outs to some of the creators I have been able to collaborate and tap in with these last few months. So first, we have the Killer Point of View podcast, which is hosted by Brian, Ashley, Blake, Jamie, and Joe. They invited me on to talk about Clown in the Cornfield, but due to some technical difficulties, the audio is a little messed up. That episode has not yet been released, but once it is released, be sure to keep an eye out on the Terrorific IG for all those links, and follow the Killer Point of View Network on socials as well. Next, we have Bubba Wheat with the It's Time to Rewind podcast. Sat down with him to talk about Happy Death Day. So he's going through each individual time loop in that movie. And so he and I spoke about the time loop where Tree is in the hospital and flees to the parking garage. So that is out wherever you get podcasts, so check that out. Next, we have Isaiah, better known as the Bitter Wolf, winner of the 2025 Sacred Crypt Award for Best Series for his project titled The Horror Mosaic. In this project, he profiles independent horror content creators, writers, directors, other filmmakers, podcasters, etc. Just gives them a platform to kind of talk about what the impetus was for their passion in horror, current projects they're working on, where to find them, etc. So he asked me to be a part of the second season, so appreciate you. He and I just spoke a couple of days ago, so yeah, check that out whenever it's released. Should be pretty soon. But wait, there's more. Next, we got Josh with Real Talk. He and I sat down to discuss our top 10 kills from the film Halloween Kills. And if you've seen that movie, then you know Michael Myers was an absolute machine in that film. He racked up quite the body count. I actually counted every kill. I think it was like 29, something in that ballpark. Next, we have Mika G, the creator and host of the podcast Cinematic Nightmares. Also, through her YouTube channel, she runs a horror trivia night that she does every month or every couple of months or so. So I've done 2 so far. Most recently was the weekend before Halloween. It was a Halloween theme. I dressed up in my costume, had my banana going until I got too hot because I was getting swamp ass like a motherfucker. So I had to pivot to like a green wig I had laying around. So I guess I was a podcast joker. That was my impromptu costume. But she is another winner of a 2025 Sacred Crypt Award. She won the Rising Star Award, which, if you may recall, I was also nominated for. So she did beat me in that category, but well deserved. So shout out to Mika. Keep doing what you're doing. And next trivia night, I'm coming for that dub, bro. All right. I got 3rd last time. and that didn't really sit well with me. I'm a very competitive person. So yeah, I need that dub. We're almost done. We're almost done. This is like the second to last one. Okay, so we have Dave, founder of the Echo Cell Collective. It's a new startup kind of marketing agency where he's trying to build a roster of various horror content creators, podcasters, cosplayers, etc. Just people who are tapped in with the horror community. So seems like there are some pretty exciting things on the horizon. So I'm happy to be a part of that, and I look forward to see where things go. And last but not least, I got to give a shout out to my OG collective, the first group that I joined since starting my podcasting journey. That is the Creators Collective. So a lot of people involved here. So I'm just going to shout out their podcast names. So we have Macabre Mondays, Grimly, It Came from the Maritimes, Tea Tales and Talks, Canadian Creepies, Down the Crooked Path, Spooky Sips, Something Strange, Do You Dare, Kill Me Maybe, Creepy Shit, Not My Ghost, Not My Problem, Unknown, Unsolved, Unseen, and State of the Unknown. Now, that's a lot of names I just gave you. We're basically like the Spooky Avengers. I'm not sure what my role would be. If I had to choose, let me think about this for a second. Maybe Drax, like the guy who contributes like just enough, just enough so he's there and you don't kick him out, and maybe he'll drop like a joke here and there. That's probably a fitting role for me. But yeah, no, they cover true crime, supernatural and superstitious stuff, regional hauntings and regional crimes as well. So check all that out, and of course horror films. But yeah, I have a link in my link tree that will take you to the Creators Collective, where they all have their individual podcast links as well. So check them out, give them a follow. I'm pretty sure most of their IG handles are the same as their podcast names, but if you have any trouble finding them and you're interested, let me know and I can point you in the right direction. But that's all for me. End of roll call. I'll see you in 2 weeks for VHS 2. But in the meantime, remember, always keep it spooky.